Welcome to Digitally Creative. I'm your host, Vincent Ferrari, and joining me this week is someone who I definitely think fits the bill of this podcast. He's merged digital and making in a beautiful way, especially recently. I have the one and only Grant from Dadcrafted. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Vincent?
Good. For those of you that don't follow Grant recently, and by recently I mean a couple of months ago, but recently, in the grand scheme of things, got himself a Glowforge. And ever since then, it's just been like, let's laser all the things. And as someone who owns a Glowforge, you guys know I have a soft spot for it. So I've been following you since before you got your Glowforge, but I really enjoyed the stuff you've been making afterwards, because it's always this constant journey of exploration into what you can do with it and the cool stuff you can make with it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your channel, the kind of stuff you make, and all that stuff, so people can get a better idea of what you make and what you do.
Yeah, sure thing. Grant from Dadcrafted, as you said. YouTube channel, Instagram, all the things. I think I started all this about 4 years ago in the fall, so maybe it's been over 4 now. But yeah, I kind of just started the channel mainly as like a creative outlet to just kind of, I don't know, basically give me an excuse to do all this stuff. But I kind of chose
Sounds like a lot of us.
Yeah, I chose Dadcrafted as a name, just kind of, I've got twin boys that are now. So when I started this, they were like 5, and I knew I wanted to make them all of the geeky crap that, I probably wanted when I was a kid. So started the YouTube channel, and I mean, it's been slow growth for me. I mean, I'm sure you're going to bring in tens and tens of listeners to the podcast this week.
Let me tell you something. I'm pretty sure the podcast is going to give you a great big couple of dozens also. So don't you worry your pretty little head about that.
But yeah, I mean, I mainly started as mainly woodworking. That was kind of my foray. I've always liked to make stuff. I got into it. A buddy of mine that was much more advanced in woodworking kind of got me started by doing like cornhole boards. We used to have season tickets to Iowa football games, so I'd go to those, and we would always play cornhole. So I wanted to make my own set, and that's kind of how I decided, well, I should buy a table saw and a miter saw, and started down the path of buying every single tool imaginable.
That rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper too, especially with woodworking tools.
Yep. So I mean, over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, I've kind of gathered pretty much everything I've needed. And I was probably at a point, this time a year ago, I guess, I knew I was probably, had fingers crossed that I was going to get a bonus from my job. And I was, aside from just doing house stuff and paying off debt, I was like, well, let's do something fun. So I was on the fence of like, should I get a CNC or should I get a laser? And ultimately chose to get a Glowforge. And yeah, like you said, it's kind of spiraled out of control this year. All the things I thought I was going to do changed drastically. Once you get that thing and you go down a rabbit hole, and then people tell you like, you should make this. And I'm like, yeah, I should make that.
Should make that. I love that you went with the laser first. I always tell people that it's like CNCs are great. I love my CNC. But if I had to pick one or the other, which I would rather have in my shop, I would take a laser over a CNC every single time, 100% of the time, and not even think twice about it. As much as I love my CNC, I just find that the laser, if the CNC is broken, I'm sad. If the laser's broken, I'm out of business. It's just, it's become such an integral part of what I do that it almost touches every project as I'm doing it or as it goes out of the shop now.
Yep.
And especially with client stuff, because I do a lot of personalization. So it's interesting when I see other people that make the same decision, to get the laser first.
Yeah. And it's totally got me into client stuff now. And I don't feel like that was really ever the intent for me. And my wife has kind of mentioned this before of like, well, why don't you you could make some money, but if you just make some more cutting boards instead. And I'm like, I don't really want to make cutting boards like over and over. Like, I don't really have a lot of interest in making the same thing over and over again and batching stuff out like that. So hence, I think all of us as maker slash content creator, whatever you want to say. Like we all kind of want that thing ultimately. Like, God, it would be great to be able to do this full time, do it for a living or whatever. So to me, that was always the thing of like, if I can create enough YouTube videos and content, then that helps push towards the goal. And really, the YouTube video is the thing, not necessarily the thing that I made as much, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But like I just haven't had the interest in kind of batching things out. And when I thought about the CNC versus the laser, that was kind of the thing of like CNC would help me batch out a bunch of things, I think, but like I just don't want to do it. I'd rather make new stuff every month. So
Well, the stuff that you're doing with the laser too, like you've done some really cool stuff. Like you did the Harry Potter wanted posters, the GI Joe fan art that you did for Assembly Required. That has to be one of my favorite things that you've made. You just did an awesome set of shelves. For those of you watching on YouTube, the shelves behind Grant were just a project that involved the laser. Very creative use of the laser, which I never thought of, and I'm watching it going, dude, that's a really good idea. Like I want to see how this is going to come out. You know, I don't think that a CNC would have been the right move for you based on, I mean, maybe you would have just made different things than what you're making, but what you're making now, like the detail level and like the comic book corners and all this stuff that you're doing, the fan art type stuff, I can't imagine that working with a CNC. Like, I mean, I guess you could if you really had the time, but not going to get that level of detail. Yeah.
And yeah, and it's funny because like I said, it was about a year ago where I was kind of sitting on this decision, and I went to Workbench Con last year, and I had kind of a group of maker friends that I've met in the community but never met in person that I knew were going to be there, and we all kind of talked in advance and we're going to hang out. So I did spend some time. Well, Workbench Con is cool for the sessions, but the best part about it is like just getting to hang out with everybody, and honestly just
Sure.
You know, the bar at night and the hotel lobby and getting to talk to everybody for hours on end. This was my favorite part of the whole thing. And I don't know if you're familiar with When Geeks Craft, Nicole.
Oh yeah, they've been guests on this very show.
See, there you go. But yeah, I talked to them quite a bit about the laser, and I know they've done a pretty good job as far as the referral codes. Well, they were, at least I think, before the prices went up at Glowforge. But
oh, their maps, our maps are just
oh, they're so awesome, and that's like part of it. Like I was kind of like, I really got to have that Breath of the Wild map. I really need to make that thing. That's probably on my list at some point, or maybe I'll wait for the new video game. But
this is the second podcast in a row that Breath of the Wild come up. Donovan is finally going to be okay with me again. It's like, okay, I may not love the game, but we've mentioned it twice in a row. It's good. We're good.
Yeah. Oh, I love that game. It's our favorite. Me and the boys. That's kind of. And we're about ready to pick it up again, I think, because the new game comes out in May. We're going to see if we can get through it in the next 4 months. But no, talking to Nicole kind of in the lobby over drinks one night, and we were going back and forth on like, she was like, you know, kind of asking, well, what are you going to use it for? Like, what do you think you're going to do? And my wife had just got a Cricut machine. So we were kind of like, well, you could do the Cricut for a lot of the, you know, the stickers, the add-ons. So maybe the CNC would be the better way. And like, we went back and forth over the course of a half hour, just like, you know, do the CNC. Nope, do the Glowforge. And then finally I think we ended up like, let's just do the Glowforge like that. I think that would be the best for what you do. And yeah, I'm totally happy that that's the route that I went.
So many people, it's so funny to me because when I bought mine, I bought the Plus, and I remember it was $5,200. And when I bought it in the fall of 2018. I bought it in the fall of 2018, and I got it on Christmas Eve of 2018. That was the day that FedEx dropped it in my garage. And I remember the agonizing over the price. And was the $5,200 price tag. I mean, that was all in. That was everything shipped, everything. It was $5,200 sales tax, the whole thing. And I remember sitting there going, I don't know if I can justify $5,200. I don't know if I can justify $5,200. And I happened to be listening to a podcast as I was trying to make the decision, and it was my business mentor's podcast. And in one of the episodes, he actually said, he goes, if there's a piece of equipment that you can buy that you know will add value to your business, guaranteed, and you don't buy it, you're not taking your business seriously enough. So If it's going to add value to your business, figure out how to afford it, borrow, steal, whatever you have to do, get the money together and get it, and you'll benefit immediately. And it turns out I paid it off in 4 months. And this albatross around my neck of $5,200 I was panicking about was a non-issue 4 months after I bought it. I was like, wow, this wasn't the decision that I made it out to be. It was actually a smart decision. And now 4 years later, I'm still using the same machine. I mean, I know it's on borrowed time now, right? Because they only last about 5 years. The tube only lasts 5 years. And at that point, it's cheaper to just buy a new one than to buy a new tube.
Yeah.
But man, that thing has really paid for itself like 50 times over.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm pretty sure I probably haven't paid for mine yet. And I got the smaller model, but that was kind of the other thing of mentioning Glowforge raising their prices. I kind of heard from the people in the know that was about to happen.
Oh,
that was kind of the other thing, that it was like, if you're ever going to do this, like, do it right now before
now's the time.
They went up in mid-March last year, I think, in 2022. Yep. So yeah, that was kind of the thing. And I had the money due to the work bonus kind of helped. So that, but again, I haven't looked back from that. And that's kind of led me more into this whole digital sphere. Because before this, I wasn't into much digital creation at all. I had a little bit, and I've always had, I'd always had plans and things written down kind of in my OneNote about future state and what I want this to look like eventually. And part of that was products and trying to brainstorm product ideas or things that I could sell if I opened up an Etsy store. And, I finally did that last year, and I don't think I ever would have done it without the laser. Like, I mean, and I'm teetering on that line because you mentioned some of the Marvel corner box art. And I'm sure if I ever got big enough, the people at Disney will probably send me a cease and desist letter, which I probably like frame and hang on my wall somewhere in here. But yeah, that's one of the pieces where I'm like, I'm kind of using the geekdom stuff to hopefully get awareness to the channel. Sure. And then, maybe I have to pivot someday. But I'm like, on Etsy, I'm not really, I put up some of those corner box art, but I didn't put any up that had the word Marvel. I just put the art of Spider-Man, and my justification, I guess, in my head anyway, is like, well, I drew it. Like I redrew it, and I'm not putting Marvel, and I'm not putting the word Spider-Man anywhere. And I'm sure that's the thing.
There's so, I mean, I know that they go, it's funny. It's a weird balancing act because I know they go after people, but I also know there's a lot of people on there with it. Oh, so it's you're kind of just rolling the dice at any given moment, right? It's like, are they going to sue you? Realistically, could they? Yes, they absolutely could. They could sue you until you're broke, right? Are they gonna? Probably not. They're probably just gonna go take this down, and you're gonna go, okay, and take it down, right? I mean, that's as far as it's most likely gonna go. So, yeah, I do love the spin you put on the stuff, though. I really enjoyed when you did the corner, the G.I. Joe cards.
Yeah.
For Assembly Record. Like, I loved watching you do that. I loved watching you kind of go through the process of getting the art together and cleaning it up and then painting it. And there's been a lot of times where I've watched you do stuff and I've gone, I wouldn't have done it that way, but that definitely works. So
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's better ways of doing all this stuff. But the G.I. Joe stuff was a ton of fun, and it probably didn't get the views or the traction that I wanted, but like, I don't know. That was kind of a thing where I made a YouTube video of it, and I don't know if you've had a chance to watch that, but I kind of talk through like how that was more of a vlog style video, which is a little weird for me. Kind of talk more about how it came up, and my brother's been going to it for years. My brother's
and the footage from the show was actually really cool. It made me want to go.
Yeah, I mean, it was a cool thing compared to like what it used to be. And this is the first time I've ever been, but from hearing from my brother, he has been to it every single year. He's like, there's a couple of tables. Like when it first started, it was some 4 dudes and a couple of tables, and it was nothing. And now it's this big thing, big for Iowa standards. I mean, having it at Hy-Vee Hall, which is like our big convention center, even if it only is using like 3 conference rooms, like it's a pretty big deal. Like, and it was packed. I mean, it was a ton of people. My stuff didn't sell so well, but my brother cleaned house. He 3D printed tons of toys, basically, not action figures, but like the vehicles. He finds some of the thing. He's bigger in that G.I. Joe community than I am, certainly, but he has found a lot of the smaller vehicles that they don't make for like the 6-inch lines, and he 3D prints those and brings them, and people buy them like crazy. Like he cleared like $1,000 the first night. I was, and it wasn't even, that was like the night that was exclusive. It was a smaller audience by far. And I'm like, you're going to run out of stuff. Like, you're not even going to have.
You're not going to have anything for the rest of the weekend, bro.
I'm like, next year I'm making toys. Like, man, I'm coming back with toys.
I'm amazed, especially with 3D printing. I'm amazed that people have figured out that, especially in the Masters of the Universe line, for some reason, and apparently it's probably because Masters of the Universe was catered to a younger audience, but a lot of the weapons go missing. It's almost a fact of life that most people that even have the figures don't have any of the weapons.
Yep.
And a lot of people have figured out that if you get a resin printer and you can really, really design, because none of the weaponry in Masters of the Universe is terribly complicated. It's all kind of chunky and basic shapes. And they figured out that, hey, I could do repros of these weapons and everything's just going to be great. And it's so cool to watch. Like, I'm literally watching my childhood get restored in front of me by people who are so passionate about it. You know, it's so much fun.
The sad part about that is that, like, me having 2 kids that are 9, like, they do not care. Like, I've tried to make them care. They do not care. No, I mean, they just don't. And I'm not the only parent. Like, all my friends that have kids the same age, and my brother, again, like he has got a toy hall of fame in his basement pretty much. Like, he's a giant collector. But like, even his kids did not care about toys. They care more about video games and, you know, the Roblox, the Minecraft, like that immersive world. They do not care about action figures. I've bought my kids action figures for their birthday and for Christmas for the last 5 years, and they don't even take them out of the box. And if they do, they take them out of the box and they play with them once, and then they are left to collect dust. I mean, it's just different. It's totally different from when we were kids, and like, we valued that stuff. And I think,
oh my God, yes.
When they're
that was sacred.
They're not going to care about any of this crap, probably.
That was sacred. I remember when I was talking to John from Gen X Grown Up. I mean, I can very distinctly remember the Christmas morning I got Castle Grayskull.
Oh yeah, yep.
And that was like the most important Christmas ever, because by some miracle, I got so much Masters of the Universe stuff that year. And I remember that very vividly. And now kids, I mean, I'm not going to slag off on kids. It's just the environment the kids are in, right?
Yeah,
but, you know, they don't get things anymore. They get codes, and they go on their Nintendo Switch and they pop a code in and they have a new game and they play the game. And if they're anything like me, they play the game for about 20 minutes and it's like, okay, I'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
Like I had the experience initially.
It is so different though, because like, you know, I remember as a kid playing with my toys, but it was always like you would have G.I. Joe battles with your friends, you know, and they would come over and you'd kind of get them all out and make a mess and make your parents nuts. But like, these guys play Minecraft together. Like, and we moved here last year. We've been in this house for a little over a year ago. We didn't move far. We lived in a smaller town called Winterset, right outside of Des Moines, Iowa. And they still have their friends from Winterset that they play online with all the time. Like, they're still buddies, because, you know, normally you would have moved away from Winterset. You never would have seen these kids again, probably. But like, they talk to them every day, because
I moved 6 blocks away at one. When I was first moved to Brooklyn when I was 4 years old, I had a couple of friends that lived around me, and I played with those friends all the time. I moved 8 blocks down the street, and I never saw them again. Yeah. Like, it's like, it wasn't even another town. Yeah. We were literally, you know, it was like, you know, when I was a kid, it's like you changed schools. Well, you died. Sorry. Yeah. Yep. You know, you're not in the group anymore.
Fell off a cliff.
Yep.
But I mean, that kind of, you know, the internet, it's, you know, it changed everything. And like, that's part of,
sure.
I don't know if this is a transition away from toys, but like, for me, this whole community of Instagram, YouTube, whatever, has been just like the biggest thing as far as not only like inspiration for making stuff, but just, you know, like making new friends and people that I never would have met. You know, I mean, I've got my friends from high school, and I've got my friends from college, and obviously I've got my brother. And out of all of those people that I've known my life, my brother's probably the one closest to me as far as like the geeky crap that we're into and those sites and making stuff, you know. But like, outside of a couple people, nobody in my friend group does this stuff. You know, like nobody. So having Instagram and realize like I'm the old person with the gray beard that like didn't I was late to the game of understanding. I thought YouTube was like, oh, I need to learn how to tie a certain knot. That's what I search on YouTube. I didn't realize there was this group of people that made weekly content of different things and made a living off of it. Like I totally oblivious to that for the longest time. So kind of when I started this and started getting involved, like, I was just sharing stuff into the void of like no followers or whatever. And to have like certain people that had not huge followings, but like, modest followings in the 10,000 range or whatever, like see your stuff and then share it
Hmm.
when you don't even ask them to. And like you did something cool. And then you to start kind of conversing with people. Like it's just, again, a whole different, like going to Workbench Con and like, it's kind of weird in a way because you're like, you're seeing your Instagram feed in real life almost like all these people that are walking by. You're like, it's like I'm in my Instagram feed for real. I'm inside my phone now. But like
Yeah, I
seeing the
felt the
people that
same
you've
way.
talked to and like, getting to actually have real conversations with these people and talk about stuff and have a conversation that is about making and the cool stuff that you're into rather than like you tell somebody at a party that you're into making and then, they're like, what about the football game? They change the conversation because they don't care. They don't want to hear about it.
I had the same feeling when I went to Jimmy Speedway the last time, and when I went to Maker Camp in October. It was the same, that same vibe of wow, there's, I always talk about how in your shop you always feel like you're the only one doing a specific thing. You're the only one. You're alone, and there is a lot of solitude in this for most of us, right? Because most of us don't work in a shop with other people. But man, when you get in that room with a bunch of people and you're kind of sitting there together and you're just shooting the shit about whatever it is you're making or whatever it is you're passionate about, I have this personality thing where for me, even if I'm not into what you're into, if you're passionate about it, I get excited about it because I get excited. I think that's why I like doing this show so much because I can get somebody on that does something I am completely dispassionate about and be super excited about it by the time I'm done talking to them because their passion, I find that passion infectious. And it's different with you because I'm into the stuff you're into, but it's like I watch the detail and the effort that you put into. I keep going back to the GI Joe cards because it's one of the more recent videos, but the amount of effort that you put into making sure those were just right. The effort you put into what went behind the characters, something that people probably wouldn't even think about. But to someone like you and me, we look at that and go,
Yeah.
that's it right there. That's it. That's important. That matters.
It's the
But
small stuff. It's the minor details. And there's so many more of
mhm.
those that, um, that I'm probably going to steal from. I mean, I've been listening to the audiobook Steal Like an Artist and like I'm very early in the book, but it's so true about like, if you just go steal somebody's work like that, yeah, that's stealing. But like it's more about taking inspiration from various areas
Sure.
and trying to do things to tweak it to make your own. And when I see, um, well, I, it's back in the corner. It's one of those blue lights behind me, but like on my Instagram feed, I'm going to start posting a lot more about this. There's a Black Panther Wakanda Forever poster that I made. And, it was a poster that I saw online. It was like the IMAX poster, the Dolby Digital poster or something. I need to actually research who the artist was because I would need to call out who made it. But like I saw that and I was like, now that would be a laser project. Like that would be something I could do. And I just started brainstorming about like, yeah, I'm taking components of this for sure. And it's
Mhm.
going to look a lot like that poster, almost exactly if it works right in my head. But, but to do that, I was like, I could make it with lights. I could make it because the poster kind of looks like it's basically try to describe it. It's Namor from Wakanda Forever. It's basically his helmet with all the feathers around it. That's the majority of the poster, and it's kind of got a water background, and then it's got a shadow outline of the heroes, the good guys in the front. It's just a black outline of them standing there like on a cliff or whatever. And there's kind of light
Cool.
shining up behind them, shining on the front of the mask, and it gets darker towards the top. And I was like, I could totally do that in a way that, make like a shadow box, light it up from the bottom behind them, and use the laser to cut out the mask and the feathers and everything. And then I was like, well, I could do resin, like I could pour resin between the feathers and everything because it's kind of what it looked like in the poster. And I mean, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I freaking love this thing. Like the way that this turned out is above and beyond anything that I hoped that it could be. Like, it is perfect. And now I was originally thinking like, man, I could try to sell this. Like, there's no way I'm selling that thing. Like,
No, well, that's a keeper.
yeah, it's totally a keeper. I got to start making two. When I do these, I'm going to start cutting on the laser and cut two at a time.
Good idea.
Two at a time. That way I've got one to sell if I want to. I've got one to keep. But like, this was, I don't sound grandeur here, but like an evolution from the Marvel stuff and everything that I've learned since I got the laser. Because like when I got the laser, again, like thinking like, you know, I can't sell Marvel stuff per se, but like if I ever do a Patreon someday, I could probably put these files online as a perk, a part of my Patreon. So I'm trying to build like my own digital library now. So the way I've been doing this is using my iPad and using Procreate. And that's basically where I do a lot of my drawing, doodling. And I will draw stuff out there. And, you know, that allows you kind of like, and I use GIMP a lot, free software on my PC. But Procreate allows me to do the layering. So like that Wakanda Forever poster is probably 30 some odd layers, at least maybe 37, maybe 40 layers.
Wow.
And then, you know, I can bring those in, and then when I change them to vectors, I use Inkscape, and then I get the sizing right there so that when I pull it on the Glowforge, I don't have to resize in the Glowforge UI. Everything's perfect. So if I wanted to make another one of those, I could replicate that. It's just there's a lot of resin with that, so that's where I'm a little nervous. And when you do a resin project, you know, it's like, man, don't screw this up. Like those are the
in that case
moments.
You better make 4 of them when you're making a resin project. I've been working with resin for years, and it's always a butt clench moment the second you start mixing. It's like, well, no turning back now. It's either going to work or it's not.
And I'm a person that, you know, I figure this stuff out on the fly all the time. Like especially this thing too, and even the Lego shelves. Like I was totally figuring this out as I went. And when I originally planned to do the shadow box, the backer basically that is the poster, the outline of the thing, I didn't plan on doing a resin pour. I was just like, we're just going to paint it and I'll kind of weather it up to try to make it look like water or whatever. But when I painted it, it was so bright, and I was like, man, I don't like that at all. And then I kind of talked to a few people, and they were like, just pour resin in it. You don't need to pour very much. Just do like, you know, 1/16 of an inch is probably good. Just do a little bit of dark resin. And so I did. I just mixed some different blues and dark blue and a little bit of green, and came up with this weird color that kind of matched what I thought it would look like in the poster. But yeah, that when you're pouring that night, I was doing it. I was like, oh man, I'm going to screw this up so bad. And I like, you know, I forgot to level it. Like after I pour, I'm like, oops, I didn't bring a level down here. And then I'm like, where's my heat gun? And I'm looking all over my shop, and I can't find my heat gun to get the bubbles out. Luckily, I found I still had a torch that was probably like 15 years old. But be prepared. Be better prepared than I am, because I'm totally just figuring this out on the fly.
Adaptation is important. I mean, even in your most recent video with the shelves, you know, I was watching you put them together, and you're like, why is this not working? And you take the shelf and you just flop it up and down. It's like, why is this not? And I'm like, why the hell did that happen? Like, and I was actually annoyed for you. I'm looking at it going, oh, that would piss me off so much. Like, all right, how's he going to putting the shim behind it was actually a really good idea. I was like, yeah, that'll do it. But man, it was just like those little things. You could prepare for everything. There were 2 things in the video that I was so happy that you left in. That the bottom shelf was a little too far to the right, because you like I cannot do that math on the fly. I cannot. I don't even pretend that I can. So, and then the shelf, the bracket, just not really, you know, butting up to the wall correctly, and just kind of just flopping around a little bit. But you just kind of took it in stride. It's like, all right, fine, here we go. Everything's going fine. Then you get to the last panel of the design. It's like, so back down to the Glowforge I went to cut 2 more because I didn't leave enough space. You know, I feel like that's kind of I don't know. That's the process, right? For people like us, like we don't have an engineer that goes into a project and goes, this is how much of this you're going to need. Do it this way. Everything's going to be fine. For us, it's more of, okay, this should work, and be prepared to be flexible if it doesn't. I think that's kind of the best attitude to take, especially on the bigger the project gets, the more areas you're going to need to be flexible in. But in the end, if I hadn't watched the video, I'd never know that anything went slightly sideways with it. So,
well, right. And that was, you know, that was probably my philosophy for the first several years of doing this. Like I would
Mm,
always, it was always so much easier to edit out the mistakes. And,
sure.
it's like, I don't want to deal with the comments because I probably did that wrong. So it was, and I want to keep the video as
You'll
short.
still deal with the comments, my
Oh
friend.
yeah. But, like yeah, I want to keep the video as short as possible. And, it's one of those things of like, you got to kill your baby. You got to keep cutting it down and make it, get any of the fat out of there. And the mistakes are always the easiest thing to cut. You're like, I don't really need this, but I've kind of made a decision. Like, I'm going to stop doing that because I think the mistakes add to the whole concept of what I want to put across the channel of being like, I try to make cool stuff. You should be able to make cool stuff too. And everybody comes across that stuff. I am not an expert. I am an idiot. Like I don't know anything. And yeah, you can look at my comment. Go look at my comments, like on my canoe paddle video, if you want to see some of the people telling me what an idiot I am. But like, I don't know that, or I'm going to chop my fingers off. I love the safety police on YouTube.
Oh yeah, the safety police are my favorite. You watch someone's like, and they always, and as Grant from Clamp always says, there's there's always somebody in there who will tell you exactly how long they've been doing that thing too.
Yep.
I've been a woodworker for 25 years. I have 3 fingers, and I'm telling you that's dangerous. It's like, if you have 3 fingers, you probably shouldn't be telling anybody what dangerous is.
Yep.
You clearly got it wrong, my friend.
I've still got 10. Thank God. Knock on.
Exactly.
But yeah,
The safety police are a fact of life.
yeah. But that whole concept is I'm going to do a lot more of that, of leaving the stuff in where I screw stuff up. And, because it's relatable and like people get it. And kind of like you said, like you were glad that you saw that stuff. I mean, I think.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have thought to put a shim behind it. My immediate thought was, oh crap, okay. And it's funny because when something like that goes sideways, I start thinking like, okay, how would I fix this? Well, I would maybe use a longer or different kind of anchor to put it on the wall.
Yep, I
maybe
did do that, and I omitted that. So I did omit something.
But yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I like it because it kind of flexes your brain muscle a little bit, right? You're looking at it going, all right, how would I solve this problem? How would I solve this problem? And Grant, I'm glad you tried that, by the way, because I'm like, wow, okay, I wouldn't have solved it that way. That's actually much easier than what I had in mind.
Yeah, and it's one of those deals too. With they're IKEA shelves, so I think I bought two long sets that are, I don't know, close to 7 feet, and then the other ones are the shorter, like 2.5, 3 feet. And then they're put together and then skinned with the laser panel, so it looks like one giant shelf. But it was that problem of, I think it was the shorter. They have the
shorter black
screw
one
into the wall that have the poles that stick out that you just slide the shelf into. Those poles were just kind of bent down or something. It just wasn't the same exact angle as the other ones.
I could sense your frustration when you did the left side of the bottom shelf, and you went to put the shelf on, and the little bit of the laser panel was hanging over. And I could feel your frustration as you went to put the shelf in, and you're like, I could almost feel your teeth like gnashing as you're like, what do I do now? God damn it.
Yeah. And that's one of those things too of like, there's so many times, especially over the past, before this last year probably, where it's so much easier to I record everything on my phone. Like I don't have a fancy camera. Everything is, and I've got an iPhone 14 or whatever now, but like everything I do is record on the phone, and it's so much easier sometimes to just hit time lapse and go, like, cause for editing later, like, now instead of a 5-minute clip where I've got to figure out the important points, I've got a 20-second clip, and it's just so much easier editing wise. But that's kind of the easy way. And if you do something like that, you miss it. Like you don't have it. So I'm trying to just use the regular recording speed, especially when I'm doing something that potentially could be wrong, so that I have my reaction in real time to show that, like, oh, dude, you're an idiot. Like, why did you do that?
I was enjoying so much as you and your son were putting the stuff up on the shelves, and you're like, as you could tell, we're big Star Wars fans. I'm like, yeah, seriously. Yeah. It's like it's all Star Wars Lego from one side to the other. Mostly. Pretty much. We've got some other Lego too, but a lot of this stuff, honestly, we've still got boxed up from the move. But again, trying to get my kids to play with toys. That's the other problem. I think I enjoy the Legos more than they do. But probably. I think it's kind of cool though. I like that what you like. That room is becoming more of, I like this stuff. Here's the stuff I've made for that IP. You have the wall of the Marvel comic book art, and then behind you have the Lego and that stuff. And I kind of like the way you're kind of decking out that room that you're in with the stuff that matters to you. I think that's something that we don't appreciate as makers often enough, is the ability to just go, I'm really into this. I'm gonna make stuff that I'm into and decorate with it and make it pretty and make the room look good, make something cool with it.
Yeah. Well, and they
I
get
think a
into
lot
it
of time.
too, having the kids and like, when
Mhm,
they want to hang out here now. That was like we've got two different really kind of like recreation rooms in our basement that are finished.
mhm.
And the other one has like the nicer carpet and the nicer couch and the bigger TV. So like they're usually in there and they would never use this room. And I was like, I kind of had it in my mind of like, well, I want to turn this into the fun room. Like I want this to be the place where they want to hang out. So I kind of slowly, like I've got an old Lego shelf that was one of my early YouTube videos that I made that it looks like it's made of giant Lego bricks. Like I cut out dowels to be the bricks around the top and it's painted like the original Lego primary colors. So I put that back up. We started putting sets up there, and I've got an old night light that I made, and I put that up. And then I did some lightsaber holders a year ago because when we went to Disney World back in mid 2021, kind of at the I don't know after we'd been vaccinated, but before Omicron. I don't know. We got to go to Disney World, and it was awesome because there wasn't 5 million people there at once. But we got the lightsabers. They
Mhm.
did the build your own lightsabers at Savvy's workshop. So I was like, oh man, I gotta make something. Those were kind of like the last couple things that I did before I got the laser. Um, so they're like resin. They did different designs, and I designed them after the when you get a lightsaber from Savvy's workshop, they give you a little pin based on
Mhm.
which there's 4 different kinds you can pick, and you get this little pin, and it's got a different design for each one. So I took those and I kind of tried to make the lightsaber display look like that shape and design, and then I cut out the middle and filled it with the different their favorite color of resin, and then lit it up with these neon lights behind it and everything. Um, there's some YouTube videos out there on those too,
Yep.
but my Star Wars stuff never gets as much traction as I wish. But if anybody wants to see those, they're pretty cool. Um, but those things, I've got all these different things in this room that are lit up now, and the
Mhm.
Lego shelves now, and the Wakanda for everything, and like they've been hanging out here now. Like they actually come in here and watch TV and play in this room now. I mean, have the
Mm.
aesthetic and it looks cool. Like it kind of matters. Like they like it as much as I do, almost. Probably not, but close maybe.
What are there any properties that you haven't made anything for yet that you're thinking like next on the list? Like it's kind of because you've done your GI Joe stuff, you've done Marvel stuff, you've done Star Wars stuff. Is there anything where you're going? And you've even done Harry Potter. Is there anything where you're like, I'm going to branch off into that next? Like that's the next area of stuff that I want to look into.
I think some Nintendo for sure.
Yes, good
Mario,
man, good man.
probably Mario specifically. I mean, I've done some Zelda stuff. I've got some old
Hmm.
videos where we did like the Hylian shields and um, the God. What else did we do? I know I did more Zelda stuff. Oh, I 3D printed the one of the spears. I can't even remember the name of it. The Royal Halberd, maybe, um, from Breath of the Wild. But like somebody made an awesome design that we found on Thingiverse, and we printed it off and painted it and did the whole thing. It's a short video, because somebody else's design. Um, but yeah, I could make Breath of the Wild weapons for days. Like I love that stuff, and the boys have been asking me to make a Master Sword forever, but someday.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, my brother got me an arcade kit, like a bar top arcade. That's just basically all the MDF pieces, like half-inch MDF, to
Oh
assemble
cool.
yourself. And I've had it for probably 3 years, and I have not assembled it. And he is probably annoyed with me, but like I will.
It's just the outers, or is it like the sticks and buttons and the
Oh, he gave me
screen and all
everything.
that
He
too?
gave me the whole kit that's got.
What are you doing, man?
Dude, I'm terrible. I know. Well, again, I know my kids probably won't play it because they'd rather play Roblox or whatever. Um, but being a maker that makes my own stuff and wants to make YouTube videos, I have struggled with that thing as far as like, how would I turn that into a YouTube video? Like, I just don't want to put together a bar top arcade and try to make a YouTube video. That's boring.
Easy,
So,
easy. You don't make it as it is.
well, yeah. So
That.
I think I'm finally getting close to the right idea as far as the stuff that I can do on the laser now, and the stuff that I've done with like
Mm-hmm.
the corner box art and that Wakanda Forever poster and resin. I think I've got somewhat of a plan in my head about how I can skin that thing, light it
Perfect.
up,
Yeah.
and turn it into something that is, you know, an homage to video games from my youth that will be played on that. So,
And what you do, this is just my advice. Take it, leave it, whatever. But I think what you do is you put it together as basic as possible. Because I know that the MDF generally doesn't have decals on it. It's just a
no,
black painted MDF. Even if it's painted, most of them aren't even painted now,
no,
and they
this is
just
an older one.
they're just primed. And you just go from bland to beautiful, and then you build the whole thing, right? This is really cool, but now we're going to make it even cooler. And now you start doing all the crazy customization to it because, man, just seeing what you've done and the ideas that you've come up with, yeah, that's I love this idea now. I'm kind of annoyed that you have it sitting there, but I'm kind of glad that you waited because now you have the glow for it. You can do something really cool with it.
Yeah, because before that was always the concept of like, well, I'm just going to hand paint it. Like I'm pretty decent artist in my own mind, at least.
Clearly,
I can.
That comes through in your stuff, by the way.
Thanks. But I can take an existing comic book picture or video game picture, and I can pretty much make that a 1-for-1 on my own just by looking at it and drawing it out on paper. Me coming up with something on my own, like I can take a Todd McFarlane picture of Spider-Man, and I can almost make it exactly a 1-to-1 just by looking at it. But for me to try and do my own Spider-Man pose in the style of Todd McFarlane, it'll look terrible. Like I can't.
Right.
I don't have the creativity or something in my brain that can make me do that level. And that's probably just because I haven't practiced. I mean, if I put my mind to it, maybe I could. But so that's kind of where I think with this, I can take enough of the old retro style games, whether it's screenshots of games or figures of dudes, and do a mashup. I think I can make something work for that. But yeah,
pull off some kind of like Wreck-It Ralph style. Wreck-It Ralph, or what should we call it? Like Ready Player One, or something where it's just a nostalgia trip on the sides.
Yeah.
And like I think that would be great. I think because a lot of people, I'm amazed by how many of these like kits that I've seen floating around. I've seen how many videos there are on people making their own cabs, tabletop cabs, full-size cabs, third-size cabs. Like everybody's just making their own now. It's even, now we're at a point, and I've been seeing these machines. They're so tempting. Was it Legends Pinball? The Legends Pinball machine? And I'm looking at this thing going, I have no room for it, but I want it so bad.
Yeah.
Like it's just too much for my apartment, but man, do I want one. Like I don't recognize any of the tables. The tables are none. The funny thing is that I realized that a long time ago that all the tables I played as a kid were Midway tables, and nobody has licenses for Midway tables. So they're all like, what's that? The brand that they all have, Stern. They have Stern, and now there's this other Italian brand that's in this whole setup. But it looks so cool.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I would love to stand in front of this thing and just flapping on buttons and stuff. And this whole community of just building out these old machines is blown up. So you'd be right in a very, very optimized community for that project.
Oh yeah, and again, like I'm sure my brother bought it for me. I'm sure he's super annoyed that I haven't done it, and he is a junkie. Like he's built his own Tron machine, and I think he 3D printed the Tron handle.
Wow!
But like, yeah, he's got like 6 arcade machines that he's built. He's been waiting for me to do one for 3 years, and he was like, "Why don't you just go to this website and print off the decals?" And I'm like, "I don't want to print off decals. That's lame. Like, come on, man. I gotta make this thing good. I just need the right idea."
I remember watching a video, and this is for those of you that aren't in this community of like retro arcade cabs, there is an amount of attention to detail that you don't understand. Like it's just, you really don't understand. Like I was watching this one guy, and he's building a cab from scratch, and he's like, okay, so the first thing we're going to do, and he gets these beautiful Sanwa sticks and buttons. Like for those of you that don't follow along too much, Sanwa is the gold standard of buttons and sticks for arcade cabinets. Like they just are the absolute best. If money's no object, that's what you buy. If money is an object, find knockoffs on Amazon and hope for the best. That's pretty much the way it works. And this guy goes, but these sticks don't feel quite right because the stick is only like a 6-position stick. We want an 8-position stick. And he takes the stick apart, and he takes this acrylic thing that he puts over it to make the to give it an 8-way stop on the stick. And it's just like, I never would have even, like, how do you even know that exists? You know, it's like there's a level of expertise that the average person who's just a passion player has collected now. It's like, man, what we're capable of in this community is as good as what the professionals were putting in stores and arcades, 30, 40 years ago. It's wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's inspiring too. It's inspiring too, because I love seeing a kid playing Miss Pac-Man.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like they don't know that it's an old game. They just know it's a game that's out there. Like, the younger the better. Like, get them young. Because I was talking about this with John too from Gen X Grown Up. Kids pick up these games, and yeah, they don't look as good as games that they play now, but you can kind of see they get it real quick, and they start playing these retro games. It's like all of a sudden this game is like, I want to play that game for a while.
Well, I mean, some of that, there's been this resurgence too. Like, well, the retro stuff, like we can go to my brother's place and he's got an original like Gauntlet 2 machine, and my kids will play that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great game.
My favorite as a kid. Like, we loved Gauntlet, but then like me and one of my kids, we play Kingdom 2 Crowns all the time. That's like a newer game, but it looks like it was from my childhood. It's all retro. It's 8 or 16-bit look, but it's like a strategy game where you run around and try to build your kingdom up and everything. And like, he loves it. He doesn't care that it looks like that,
Exactly. It's like Nintendo has leaned into that in a beautiful way. The indie stuff.
Yep. A lot of
the indie stuff is all pixel art and this nice retro feel, and they're modern games, but they're played as if they come across as like modern but with a retro flair. And now a lot of indie developers are making new games for old hardware. Like last year, there were so many new Genesis games that came out, and it's like, wait, what? Yeah. Genesis games? This is 2022, man. Yeah. What's going on?
Still a thing.
I bought a collection. There was I forgot what games they are. They're these top-down shooter games, and it was a collection of 3 or 4 games. And I bought the collection. I'm like, why am I buying this? I don't know. These are like old games, but it was just so cool to be playing these new old games. It was so good.
Well,
so good.
I think I paid for the Castlevania collection to play those old games again. And a year ago, I bought my kids for Christmas the little handheld Nintendo that's Zelda one that's got like the original 2 Zelda games plus Link's Awakening plus some other stupid thing. But like, we played the original Zelda for hours. Like, me and the boys, we would and they would sit over my shoulder and watch, and I'd watch them play and everything, and they love it. I mean, it's great. And it's like my childhood, I love that game.
I put that game on in my old house. I set up a Pi, and I put RetroPie on it, and I plugged in a controller. I set it up on my TV, and I started playing the original Legend of Zelda. And I'm like, I wonder how good this game holds. Because I play a lot of these games regularly, and I always wonder when I start playing, like, does this game hold up? Like, am I still going to have those feels for this game? And I can tell you with authority, most of the games that I loved as a kid, I still love now. And I don't know if that's just the nostalgia kind of linking me to my past a little bit. It could very well be. But I think there's something about these games that are just like immersive. Even though they're not VR and 3D and surround sound, it's just there's something about them. It's like, no, this will suck your time away. This will suck as much time as you're willing to put into it. Take it away.
Like, we started playing the original Metroid, and
man, that's a good one.
Such a great
game.
It's
a huge game.
Yes, enormous, and we still haven't beat it on the replay yet. But like, the soundtrack is awesome. Like, all of a sudden playing that game, I found myself humming along, and it's like, I remember it. Like, it came like riding a bike. Like, I knew it. I knew all the music to the game.
The same with so way back in 1999, your pal Vincenzo over here got the flu really bad, like tied to the bed, which was 6 feet from the bathroom. And it's a good thing it was. Like, I had it horrific. I could not do a damn thing. And at one point, my ex-wife said, is there anything I can do for you that's going to make this easier? I was like, well, since you can't make me better, so the only thing that literally would make is something to do, right? Just something to do. I need something. I'm bored out of my mind. I can't do anything for more than a few minutes. And she goes, well, you've been talking about that. What's that? Pokemon? Was it Pokemon? Is that it? I was like, yeah, if you could somehow make Pokemon appear in my bedroom, that would be amazing. She goes, okay. So it turns out my mom was going to the mall that day, and she went with my mom, and she got me Pokemon Red because she knew I loved red as a color, and she got me the strategy guide, and she handed it to me. She goes, this'll help. And I was like, oh my God. I was so excited. I was like, oh, finally, I have something to do. She goes, I figured the strategy guide was a good deal because where else are you going to get information? It has maps and stuff. So I just got you both. Enjoy. I played the absolute hell out of that game for about a week. And like, you could not take me off of it. Like, I was obsessed. So a couple of weeks ago, I met someone, and she got me playing Pokemon Go again. And I was like, I wonder if Pokemon Red holds up. So I have one of those. I have an Ambernick handheld, and I put Pokemon Red on it. And let me tell you something. Pokemon Red holds up really, really well. Like, it looks old, but the game itself, it's Pokemon. Like, nothing's changed.
I'm gonna have to get that for my boys then. They're into Pokemon.
My God.
Now.
I'm telling you, I've been enjoying it. So I have about 7 hours on it at this point, and I've lost 2 because, as with the old days, sometimes those saves don't save.
Yep.
So I lost 2 hours at one point on it, but man, it's just been so much fun. I've been playing it in my downtime, like just sitting there, and the music came right back, and seeing, like, I started playing, I'm like, I don't remember what to do. But then you start doing stuff, and it's like, no, I remember this. Oh, I remember this. Okay, I remember this. You're going through the tunnel under Mount Moon, and you're like, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, no, this is fine. I know exactly. I know the way out. I know where the stairs are. I know everything, and it's just all comes back. And
absolutely,
I think
same thing.
I think we underrate
Castlevania.
Yeah. Especially games like that size, right? Like, these are all big games, but you remember all of them because they were such a pivotal part of the experience of playing the games back then. You just remember it all.
Well, and that's one thing too that I had this, I've got an idea box somewhere, or I think I've got a folder in my phone that's like screenshots I grabbed that are potentially future ideas. And I don't even remember where it was a year ago or so, but I came across that picture of the end of Castlevania before you get to Dracula, where you're walking up the stairs to his chamber, and there's like his chamber, and there's the castle on the right, and there's the half moon, crescent moon in the background. Like there's it's the coolest video. And I remember as a kid, like when you get to that part, you're like, oh man, it's about to go down. But just that scene is like the coolest part. And I'm like, now seeing that again, I'm like, dude, I should pixelize that and make it on the laser. Like, I should do a layered thing of that on the laser and just make it awesome.
It's I feel like I know why people get upset when I get excited about stuff like that, like what you're talking about. I get excited about I made a Pokeball. I was doing some tests with acrylic on MDF. I was like, well, what can I paint to just see how how to make a Pokeball. I ended up giving it away. It turned out really, really good. I was very happy with it. And people are like, you're kind of stealing art. I'm like, yeah, maybe a little. But if you make something with, an old IP that's not around anymore, like, are you stealing it, or are you actually preserving it?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that weird, like, I get the reticence to use stuff like that. And there is this, I understand. But at the same time, I'm not making that kind of stuff. I don't make it to sell.
Yeah.
I make it because I enjoy it. I make it because it's fun for me. I make it because maybe someone that's close to me would enjoy it, and I make it for them. But I don't ever sell like licensed stuff. Like, I would never do that. It's just,
I mean, like I said before, I'm probably bordering on it with the corner box art, and that's why I
maybe
put those up there. But at the same time, I know I've said it multiple times in my stories to people, like, if you really want one of these, like, message me. But like, if you really want one, you better tell me now, because like I said, I get bored with stuff pretty easily. Like, I'm moving on from this. Like, I got other things to do, and I'm not going back to this probably for a while, unless somebody really wants to like commission a personalized piece or something like that. And I think if you want it myself, then I would do too. But
if you ever decide to do Transformers comic book art,
Yeah.
I'll be paying attention.
When
I'll
we
be
were
paying attention.
So when we were at the Assembly Required, that GI Joe festival, they had a bunch of. I mean, it wasn't just GI Joe stuff. They had other toy people there, and they had other comic book
Hmm.
people there, and they were selling all kinds of stuff. Ran across some of those, and then we ended up. There was another guy there that told us like, "Hey, there's this other craft show that's a comic book show. They also have crafter tables there too." So my brother called the guy, and we ended up going and doing that one as well the next weekend. And it was tons of comic books, and I was grabbing stuff, and I was like finding the old cheap comic books that I might have brought a few back here, and I was like, the Transformer comic stuff's pretty dope. Like, there's some
Yeah, there
cool
was some
stuff
really.
there, and there's a
It's
Transformers movie
fun.
coming out this year, so
Hmm.
might have to be something coming for that.
Which what will most likely be the last Transformer movie,
Yeah,
almost
sadly.
mercifully, because they haven't exactly been tremendous movies, but I still
Well,
enjoy them. I own all of them.
isn't it funny that like maybe this is just my opinion, but the Michael
Probably
Bay
not, because I
one,
have a feeling I know where this is going. Go ahead, let's hear
the
it.
Michael Bay ones were so bad,
They're awful.
and
They're terrible.
the Bumblebee movie was actually good, but
Bumblebee was phenomenal.
it didn't do as well. So I feel like the stupid studio execs are now like, you know what? We don't need to do any more of that. We need to go back to what Michael Bay was doing. We need to make that again.
But
And that's what I feel like
yeah,
this stupid thing is going to be this year. But
I
maybe I'm wrong.
watched. Okay, so Bumblebee. I watched the Bumblebee movie literally because there was nothing else of interest at the moment, and I'm like, how bad could it be? I've watched the original movies, and they were all pretty. Like they went from kind of cool to Jesus Christ, this is awful. Like it ran the spectrum in like 5 movies from this is awesome seeing them in real life to God, what are you doing? Like this is garbage. And then Bumblebee, I watched that and I'm like, this is what all the Transformer movies could have been. They could have been Bumblebee. Bumblebee was a great movie if you're a Transformers fan. And if you haven't seen it because of the Michael Bay disasters, forget that. Go watch Bumblebee and you'll actually see what those movies could have been.
Yeah, exactly. I agree
So much
wholeheartedly,
potential.
but we'll see. I mean, maybe they'll get it right. And, that's what they do with all of our things. Like the Harry Potter stuff, we were excited to see, the Fantastic Beasts movies when that was announced. And then you get them and you're like, you didn't really do it with and then we went and saw the boys. We've been reading the Harry Potter books for the last several years. We're finally to the last one now, but like, man, that last movie, we went and saw it in the theater and it was like, it was
okay.
but it was,
not the ending I was hoping for.
No, and that's the sad part. Like that'll be the end. Like they had grand plans of doing 7 more or whatever, and it's like they're not doing any more of those. They're going to pivot. They're going to sign back to Radcliffe to be Harry Potter again or something.
I felt the same way when the Cursed Child came out. I bought it immediately. I was like, okay, it's Harry Potter. I need my Harry Potter fix. The Cursed Child. How bad could it be? It is and I read it and I was like, oh. this is just bad. Like it's just bad. That's all there is to it. It's just bad. And I had a friend who got tickets, and she's like, "I'm going to see it on Broadway. Do you want to go?" I'm like, "No." Like honestly, I don't want to see it. Like there was nothing in the screenplay that made me want to see it become anything. Like I don't want to see it on stage. I don't want to see it as a movie. I don't want to ever remember it happen. I want to just forget about it. Like it just wasn't good.
Yeah, it's too bad. But I don't know. You mentioned other future projects or whatever, but that the Harry Potter world is. I've done the Wizard posters before, but I think we're about to go nuts. And then like I said a couple times, I think my boys are 9, so I'm running out of time to do this right, where I get to like make them a bedroom or a room that is, when they're 13, 14, they're not going to care. They're not going to want me to do anything probably. So I think this year is my goal to finally transform their bedroom. And I wanted to do Star Wars, but we had to be a consensus. And one of the twins said, no, he didn't want a Star Wars room. So I lost there, but I think we came to consensus on Harry Potter. So that's going to be starting very soon. And I'll probably have all kinds of Harry Potter content in the future about turning the room into basically like Gryffindor common room or something.
One of the things that I've talked about in the past is like when I started doing woodwork in October of 2017, I took Steve Ramsey's course to learn to learn the basics. And I didn't realize I didn't need the basics because my dad was a carpenter, but I never really learned from my dad. And it makes me sad to this day that my dad was an outstanding carpenter, like a fine woodworker type carpenter, like really good at what he did. And I never learned from him. And it really makes me sad, but it's just something I've just have to move on from. Like I'm a woodworker now. I know what I'm doing. And through osmosis, as I was learning, a lot of the stuff I was learning was kind of triggering stuff that I saw my dad do. And I was ahead of what I was learning, even though I was just learning it. When you're in the shop with your sons, does it ever hit you that I really want to impart this knowledge on them, or is it just it's kind of cool to have this hang with them and you hope they pick up what they pick up? Because I know that my dad, I was always his helper, like, but he never said, this is this tool, this is how it works, this is what you do. But I was always around when he was working, and like I said, I didn't realize how much I picked up through osmosis. Is that something that you feel with your kids? Do you feel an obligation to teach them, or are you just going to have them in that orbit and hope that they express an interest that you can expound on later with them?
I mean, both, but probably more the latter a little bit. And, I don't want to push stuff on them to the point where they're just like annoyed with it. They're still at the age though, where they think their dad's cool. It's probably days are numbered on that.
That timeline's getting short, my friend.
But I remember having a conversation with my brother several years ago when he used to live not too far, and we went over to his house, and I don't remember how he's got 2 boys and a girl. The girl's the youngest. I don't even know if she was born at the time, but he was wanting to redo their bedroom and do it in G.I. Joe style. And I was over there and we were painting and turned it into, basically made it look like G.I. Joe headquarters. Turned out awesome. But we were kind of talking, and I was like, well, like, why didn't our parents do anything like this for us? Like, kind of handy. He had a bandsaw. And he was just like blunt with me, and he was like, dude, our parents were lazy. Like, and that's kind of stuck with me a little bit of like, yeah, I never really thought about it at the time, but they kind of were. It's like they put in like Cowboys and Indians wallpaper when we were tiny, babies probably. And that was there until we sold that house when I was 17 years old. Like nothing changed. So to me, I don't want to be lazy. And I spent my 20s being lazy. Like I've had my share of couch time, and my back suffers today for it. But like I want them to be involved as much as they want to, but I just want to do my part to make sure that I'm just not sitting around, that I'm doing stuff, that I'm trying to do stuff that I think is cool. Hopefully they'll want to take part in that. And honestly, like that's the other cool part of the YouTube channel. So my father didn't make a ton, but I do remember, we made Pinewood Derby cars and stuff like that. My grandfather was kind of a carpenter because he had to be. My grandmother ran a county home in southern Iowa, and they were like self-sustaining. Like they had mentally disabled people and physically disabled people living in this home, and they were responsible for them and responsible for feeding them, and had cows and chickens, and they grew their own. I mean, they had a farm, and they were totally self-sustaining and actually made money for the county, which is insane to think about in today's standards. But like he was a carpenter and made stuff, and I have zero video, knickknacks, photos. I have nothing like that from my grandfather at all. And if nothing else, I will have hopefully somewhat of a library of stuff I've made for my kids and stuff that we've made together that they will have someday when I'm gone. Like hopefully, whether it's hard drives or on YouTube or in a cloud somewhere, like hopefully they'll have stuff that they can show their kids and be like, look at this crap we used to do, and look at this stupid stuff we used to spend our time on. But hopefully they kind of have a living library. So even if my YouTube channel never grows to, beyond what it is today, which ain't much, but at least they'll have that. Like that's the added bonus to me, is to have just the catalog of cool stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty great goal, honestly. I wish I had that kind of stuff. I mean, I was thinking about it as you were talking, is like the only thing I have from my dad is the desk that this computer is sitting on. Like this desk, my dad made this desk. Is it the greatest desk in the world? Not really. Like as I've taken it apart and put it back together multiple times over the years to move it from place to place, but I'm looking at it now going, this is my one connection as far as things that my dad made, because we didn't have video and nobody stood outside when my dad was in the shop and took photos. I probably have more of a record of the stuff I've made in the short time I'm doing this than the stuff that he ever made, and he was doing it his whole life. And yeah, I can totally appreciate that. It's a good way to look at it. It is good to not force it onto, because I imagine had my dad forced this on me, I would probably rebel and be like, I don't want to do this just because you're telling me I should do it,
Yeah. Or it just wouldn't work the same. But I don't have my kids, and there's the weird aspect of like, do you put your kids on YouTube? How much do you put them on there? I don't want to exploit my own children, and I don't want people to really see my children. There's that part, but to me, again, we're just having fun, and I look at it too as like my kind of, again, personal video library, and sometimes it doesn't make sense to have them in a video, or they're not as interested maybe in what I'm like. That Wakanda Forever poster, they probably didn't care about. They're not really in hardly any videos of me making that. The Lego shelves, they were down here all the time. They were more interested in that stuff. Or when I'm making them Hylian shields, they want to be a part, and they are like, yeah. And I've rewatched some of those old videos, God, when they were like 7, and we were doing some of that stuff. And I kind of made it a gig, a running thing, where I would have them at the end of the video, after I got the project done, we'd sit at the workbench, and I'd have each of them on one side of me. And I just put the camera on and let it run and just talk about what we made. And of course, it's like herding cats. Like they're running around, they're grabbing, they're just, and it was like the best blooper reels. I rewatched one of those the other day, and I'm like, I need to do that again, but I'm like, it wouldn't be nearly as good now. They're older and they're worried about like what they look like. They're starting to get to that, but time is.
Isn't it great though? Like that you didn't, not even realizing maybe to an extent you realized it, but like now when you go back and watch it, it's like, oh, that was a moment in time that I managed to capture just half unwillingly, just like, oh, it just happened. Like that's really cool that I caught that.
God, I did that. Yeah. I don't remember if the first one was the Hylian shield video. It was either that or we did when the Mandalorian came out, we tried to make the Mandalorian rifle out of wood. Like I just took different pieces of wood and kind of cobbled it all together and made it look like that thing. It's probably sitting over there somewhere, but that thing still is not broke, which is amazing. But yeah, we just sat at the workbench, and then they were just running around screaming like crazy. And that Hylian shield video, though, God, go watch the end of that video someday, just like the last minute of it, just to see the chaos that ensued, and them talking about Elfie the Christmas elf and stuff like that. It's great. Fantastic.
It's been so great watching your channel evolve, and watching even the quality of your work and what you're doing is, you've taken a bit of a pivot with the introduction of the Glowforge in a good way. Like you've pivoted and you've gone from more traditional woodworking to digital fab, and it's been so much fun watching your channel evolve and watching you kind of evolve as a creator. And even your presentation on video is progressively better and better and better. And it's good to see you're enjoying it. Cause I know, and I don't mean this as it's going to sound, so just take it for the compliment that it is. It's hard when you have a small channel to stay motivated to produce good content.
It is.
Right. And your content has never been bad content. Like you produced content on a level bigger than your channel. And I think one of the reasons I wanted to have you on today is because I've been watching your stuff for a while, and I'm like, if I can get you in front of a couple more people, I mean, I imagine we probably have a lot of the same people that follow both of us, which defeats the purpose. But, I feel like, I'd be doing my part in trying to get you out there to more people, because I do appreciate the amount of effort that you put into your content. And I know from someone who has a small channel and a small podcast that sometimes it's hard. Like you look at the numbers and you go, why the hell am I doing this? I even no matter how many times somebody will come up to me and say they love this show, there's still a voice in the back of my head going, but nobody's listening. And that's not true, right? I know it's not true. I know it's not true based on people who come up to me. I know it's not true based on the numbers. I know it's not true based on the people that share it. I know that's not true, right? But in the back of my mind, that's that self-defeating voice. Sometimes it gets real close to winning out. And I know how hard it is to shut it out. And I appreciate so much the level of the quality of work that you put out and the stuff the love and attention you put into the stuff you make on your channel. And I guess this is my little way of saying I appreciate what you're doing, and I really hope you don't give up on doing it anytime soon. So
yeah, well, I'm definitely not. I mean, I totally agree. I've had those fleeting thoughts, especially with like YouTube. Man, the YouTube numbers have just been so down lately. But like, I just have to tell myself that like, if you keep going and you try to do a little bit each time. So my goal kind of this year, I mean, you can put numbers around like, oh, I want to be at 5,000 by the end of the year. And it's like, what are you going to do to get there? Like, right. I have to do stuff to make that number come a thing. So like, I'm trying to focus more on, okay, let's just say one full video a month, and, you know, sure, splice that up into shorts and try to use YouTube shorts or whatever, because apparently those are the only thing that gets views. But try to make something better out of each one. Like whether it's how I do my shots or how I insert jokes or new video editing technique. Like I want to try to implement one new element into every single video, and hopefully by the end of 2023 I'll be that much better, and just it'll be a better quality as we go. Like my videos now are hopefully way better than when I started, even though
definitely
my third video that I ever made is still the most watched video that I've ever had, which is insane. but that, yeah, whatever. But I mean, I've gotten help along the way, and again, that kind of goes back to where we started, like the whole community aspect of this, like people that do encourage you or try to help you. And the Workbench Con experience, like I said last year, was awesome. And even what's funny is like I had such a great time, and I met so many people, and the whole experience was awesome. My flight didn't leave till Sunday night, so I was like stuck there, and I was like, well, I tried to wander around, but like nothing was open around there. The hotel was connected to some other stuff, but like not a lot to do. I ended up in the Battery, which is like there's tons of bars, restaurants, and I just kind of hung out at a bar and had a couple drinks and was just going through Instagram and messaging people back and forth and stuff like that. And I had a conversation with somebody, and they were really encouraging and like said like, this is what you need to do. Like, if you really want to grow, especially on Instagram, here's what you got to do. And like, I don't know, just kind of had a great conversation, had epiphany. And ever since then, like I'm more than doubled the size of my channel in the last 10 months of the Instagram audience. So I feel that has helped me, even though the YouTube numbers haven't been there. But every once in a while, there's a little nugget of something that does keep you going. Like I put out a video right before we moved last year. It's like, man, what can I do? And I did a bunch of different French cleat holders, and it was a different style of video for me in that it was long. Like it's like 26 minutes or something. Like I don't usually do videos that long. I was like, oh, let's try it. Well, nobody watched it. Kind of had some growth, but really not that good. It took like all year for it to get up to 700 views or something. Within the last 2 months, I think that thing's at like 5,000 now or something. Like all of a sudden, like Jimmy says, somebody opened spigot. The old man in the basement turned my spigot on.
He rolls his chair. He rolls his chair to the left, and it's off the hose.
Yeah, and I'm actually gaining subscribers again, where I was like totally just stagnant and not doing anything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'll just keep going. I mean, hopefully some of my nerdy stuff will get some traction, because it seems to be all my woodworking videos are the ones that actually do okay. But
that's the thing. It's like you can't predict what's gonna do well. Even like I'm coming off, and my YouTube channel is insignificant, but that's because I've pretty much ignored it for the last 5 years, right? I readily admit that the reason there's not huge growth on my YouTube channel is because I haven't put any effort into it. And the last 2 months or so, I've actually put some effort into it. And last month I had a really, statistically, I had a good month. And it's like, oh, you mean if I put the effort into this, something might come of it? Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, maybe I should start putting some effort into it. So, you know, sometimes it's just that obvious. And yeah, it's getting over the slog and the grind. And if you enjoy it, then the slog and the grind is still a slog and a grind, but at least it's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
If you're not enjoying it, you probably shouldn't be doing it anyway. Like I'm not trying to discourage people, but if you're not having fun and it's a slog and a grind, maybe
Yeah.
this isn't what you need to be doing with your time.
Yeah.
Just because it's just gonna, if you're not enjoying it, it's gonna come through in what you're doing. It's gonna come through in the attention you pay, and it's just gonna fall flat. It's gonna land like a dead cat, as they say. And
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, but there's what, like, again, I think coming back to the community, like that helps. Like it
Sure.
helps keep you going when you have, and even, I've got kind of several different like chat groups that I'm in on Instagram now with different people, and we talk on a regular basis and go back and forth or just tell jokes or share stupid reels or whatever. But like having those people that are there on nearly every post that comment and say something, even if it's a stupid post, they'll still cheer you on. Like that matters a lot. Like it's made it better. It's made it fun this year. Like I've had more fun in the last year doing this stuff on Instagram, even though the YouTube sucked. Like the Instagram community, I think, has been awesome. Like,
oh yeah, I put all my focus into Instagram, and that's why my numbers on Instagram are so much better. Like I put a lot of effort into Instagram, being on Instagram regularly, posting regularly, letting people know what I'm doing regularly, and yeah, I think part of it is just stop caring about what's going to pop off and just be you, do you, post content.
It doesn't matter. Like you don't even know. That's the thing. It's always the stupid video that you never, like the stupid reel that you're like, man, this is so dumb. I don't want to post this. And you almost don't post it. And then you post it anyway. And then it gets 26,000 views. And you're like,
absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely.
The thing that I just spent all that time on sitting at 400 views. Like,
yep.
Doesn't make any sense.
I did two reels. I did a test cut on my CNC. I did a test cut on my CNC. It's just the Super Mario logo. And I hand painted it and I just showed it off. And it got 13,000 views on reels. And meanwhile, my average reel hovers, I get some that hit 6, I get some that hit 100, I get some that hit 1,000. Like, is there a formula for what's popping off? Not even close. The formula is be in people's face. Let the algo know you're alive and hope for the best. That's really all you could do. You don't have any control over it. So stop worrying about it.
Yeah.
The only thing you have control over is whether you post or not. So post.
try to make sure that you're doing it daily, and the trending audio helps, but
it does. It does. One of my biggest reels got like 6,000 views, and it was like 5,000 views, and it was just 2 seconds of me posting, this is my coffee, this is what I'm working on, and boom, it popped off in like a day, and I'm like, I have no, like, to me that's like garbage level content, but I also know that that's what I have to do to survive on the platform. You have to make garbage level content. Do you think thousands of people, hundreds of people right now are making pencil sharpening videos because it's good content?
Yeah.
No, they're not. They're making pencil sharpening videos because everyone's enjoying them because they're funny, and the algo is going, well, people like pencil sharpening, whoop, whoop, and just throwing them out there. So
I'm probably too late for that bus now too. Still,
never too late. I mean, every time I think it's over, a new wave of them starts, and they get more ridiculous. It's just, I think the pinnacle of ridiculous was watching Jeff, who was on a couple of weeks ago, do it with his Shape Oko. Like, I was like, okay, we've hit the peak. That's it.
It's try to throw one in the Glowforge and see what happens, but.
I wanted to do one a couple of days ago. I was like, well, I have my jewelry tools in here. Like, I wonder if I could like use a file in my jeweler's saw to like sharpen a pencil. I'm trying to think. I'm like, yeah, but that wouldn't film well. Like, it's so funny too, because you're not just looking at, is that a funny idea? Sure, it's a funny idea compared to what other people have done. It's in line, on brand, everything's great. Is it going to film well? Probably not. Like, no, I'm not going to bother. It's a lot of effort to put in to get 5 people to watch it.
Yep.
What, pray tell, my good friend Grant, would be your thing of the week for this week? I am very, very curious to know what you brought to the table.
Well, so I'm kind of surprised that I didn't bring this up like the very first second we started the show. My thing of the week is the Komar project and his guitar that he
Ah,
made, because I freaking won that thing yesterday.
what?
I won
No
Bart's
way.
guitar. Yeah,
That's
like
cool.
I was on. I'm still on cloud nine. I'm still in shock. Um,
Wow.
Surprisingly, his YouTube video for that does not. It's like probably one of his poorest performing videos recently, which is sad because it's freaking amazing. Like, so it's
Yeah, it's a,
the great guitar giveaway. Um, I have known about it in the past because I know that typically Jimmy and Bob Claggett and Dave Picciuto for making it. They've all participated in the past. Jimmy got roasted the one year that he roasted his guitar, and
literally.
I would have taken that thing. So that was my intent, I wanted to go buy tickets because you can buy raffle tickets for whatever guitar you want to pick, and there's 24 of them, I think.
Hmm.
So I wanted to buy tickets for Jimmy's to try and win his. And I kept forgetting, and I'm like, well, that deadline's like in late July, and I kept forgetting. And then Saturday, I woke up and I was sitting around having my coffee and talking to my wife, and I was like, oh crap, like I think the deadline was last night. I missed it, so I get on my phone real quick, and it's like 55 minutes until the deadline. I'm like, oh yes, I didn't miss it.
Oh.
So then I ended up going buying tickets for Dave's and Jimmy's, and then I remember Bart. I remember seeing his on his Instagram and seeing that YouTube video, and I was like, dude, that thing is so freaking cool looking. So I bought more tickets for his, and then they did a live stream. It's Crimson Guitars YouTube channel. They did a live stream yesterday, and I was watching it while I was trying to work, and I had it on in the background, and they did Jimmy's and they did Dave's, and I didn't even come close. Like my numbers, like your ticket number is basically the order that you bought it, and if they do a Google random number generator, and basically, Jimmy's was like number 26 or Dave's was number 7. Like they were all really low numbers, and I was like, and I looked at my receipt and I'm like, well, I've got number 341 on Bart's, and they pull his up, and the guy says like, well, how many tickets did we sell? And he says 341. I'm like, I've got 339, 340, 342. Like, well, I'm not winning. He puts it in the random number generator, and I kind of look away at my work computer, and then he says 341, and I'm like, did he just read off the right? And I look back at the other screen, and it's sitting there 340, and they're like freaking out. They're like, that's the first time that's ever happened. And I'm like, I think I just won that freaking guitar.
That's
But
awesome.
so crazy. I cannot believe. And I messaged him, and I actually met him. I went to a maker meetup in Chicago, and that I know from Luke in the Garage. He kind of told me about this, and I went out there to hang with him and Dave, 3D DIY Dave. He was there with the scanner doing the Maker Scan project. So I was like, well, I'll drive to Chicago. Sure, I want to get scanned. I want to be part of this. So I met Bart there and talked to him about some of this stuff, and I was following along his Instagram, and that guitar, crazy. And I play a little bit, not very well, but I play enough that I'll be able to shred
It's a
off
beautiful
a little bit when
guitar.
I get it. But he called me last night. He was really excited, and we're actually going. He lives in Chicago. We're going to go out to Chicago anyway in March. So I told him, I'm like, well, I'll save you the shipping, dude. Just keep it in your shop, and I'll come. We'll hang.
Probably safer that way anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So
Wow.
yeah, everybody go check that guitar
Absolutely.
out. It's amazing, and it's mine. It's gonna be mine.
Oh yeah, as we've been talking, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, there's been B-roll of the guitar rolling. So don't worry, the people will get to see what it looks like. If not, I'll have I don't usually put links in the show notes for stuff like this, but just go to Komar Project on YouTube. It's like his 3rd video. I can't believe I built this in 3 weeks. Win this guitar. It is a beautiful guitar. Oh, wow, that is. Well, hell, that's a thing of the week if there ever was one. That's a really good one, man.
Yeah, crazy lucky. But
Cool.
man, so happy.
My thing of the week is it's kind of twofold. It's 2 things, but really they are directly tied to each other. So YouTube suggests, and I talk about this all the time, especially on this show, YouTube suggests weird things for me. But a lot of times they'll suggest something and it sends me down rabbit hole city. And recently it suggested a channel to me called Arcade Matt. And Arcade Matt lives in Pittsburgh. And basically what he does is he goes to different arcades, including Cedar Point in Ohio. He goes to all these different arcades and he plays the claw machines, all the skill games, the claw machines, the coin pushers, the basketball, skee ball, all these weird different games that are out in all these different arcades. And he teaches you how they work. He teaches you how to play them. You can watch him play and learn strategies for how to to play better at these games. He plays carnival games, and it's a hell of a fun channel to watch. Like I literally, the night that I found his channel, I think I probably watched about 4 hours of his videos, like just on continuously, just watching video after video after video after video. He seems like a really cool guy. His personality is really up, and he's very excitable. He has a lot of subscribers, like almost 1 million subs doing this. And when he goes out, like kids recognize him because they watch his channel too. So it's fun watching this guy really kill these machines and showing you the trick to winning at them. And then every once in a while, he'll do a video where, because he owns some machines that are out in different arcades in Pittsburgh, and he'll show you how he services them, and you get to learn how they work. And he'll take you inside and he'll be like, see, this is how you beat this machine right here. This is the trick, this right here. And it's cool as hell to watch. So one of the things he showed off in one of his videos is a game on Steam called The Coin Game. And if you've not played The Coin Game, you need to play The Coin Game. The Coin Game is basically all of those skill games in a game that's open world. So you start out in an arcade. The premise right now, since it's in testing mode, the premise right now is you start out in birthday mode, where you get basically an unlimited stock of cash and you're just let loose in an arcade that your uncle owns. But when you're bored in that arcade, you can pull up your transporter app on your built-in game watch, and you can transport to other arcades, or you can actually transfer yourself over to the piers and play carnival games like Shoot the Red Star and Catch the Duck. And it's just such an amazing, the experience of playing these games is so realistic. It's frightening how, like, if you put headphones on, like the background noise is the arcades. Oh. And it's just, you hear people calling to each other and you hear barkers and it's incredible. It's like I think it's like a $14 game. It's impossibly cheap. It's so much fun. So I guess my things of the week this week are Arcade Mad on YouTube, which I will have a link to in the show notes, and the Coin Game on Steam. I highly recommend the Coin Game on Steam, even if you don't feel like watching Arcade Mad. The Coin Game will suck away a lot of your time. A lot of your time. It's just so much fun. And if you need more money, just start a new game. It's like it's unlike the real ones where you run out of quarters. So it's really great. It's actually made me really, really want to go to an arcade and play some of these games. I haven't been to an arcade and oh my God. So the last time I was a kid, it was 2011. It was the last time I was inside an arcade. Like it's been a minute.
$14, I can tell you that.
I promise you, I did way more than a roll and a half of quarters that day. I promise you.
They've got a new one not far from us, and I think my kids went through $20 in about 4 minutes.
Oh yeah, you burn money like that. No. So another thing that he does that I love, like he goes onto like some of the coin pusher machines. He's like, so how much can you win? So he just basically throws $50 into the machine. And just keeps playing, just keeps playing the machine over and over again. And he'll show you like, okay, so for $50, we came away with this many tickets. And then he goes to another machine. It's like, okay, let's start with $25 here. It's a regular quarter pusher machine where you actually get quarters out when you win. And he was showing, it's like, okay, so you start with $25. It's going to give you, you play it through. He ended up with 15. Play it through again, you end up with 8. Play it through again, you end up with 2. Play it through again, you end up with 0. So over the long term, you're probably not going to win on that machine. Unless you get really, really lucky, you're just going to lose money. But it's still fun to play because you still have that little bit of hope, because on some of those machines, they have little bonus prizes stuck in the pusher. And it's so smart. Like, it's such smart content, and it's fun to watch. And sometimes it's just him playing games, and that's fun to watch too, because I've learned how claw machines work. The next time I get in front of a claw machine, I'm going to win something for the first time in my life. I've never won on a claw machine.
Yeah. I need to show that one to my kids, because that's the thing they always want to play. And I'm like, don't do it. You're not going to win.
It depends. So what he's shown, like the ones at Dave & Buster's are particularly favorable for winning. They're rigged a little bit more toward the player. And I guess that's because they don't have to make their money only on the arcade, because they got you in there to eat and drink too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
alcohol there.
yeah, so if you're going to play coin machines, apparently Dave and Buster's is a very good place to play coin machines that I've learned from arcade. See, this is what you learn watching YouTube. Like, I wouldn't have learned. I wouldn't have cared, but thank you to the algorithm, I learned all about claw machines and skill games. So there you go. You know what doesn't cost me any money but makes me money? The people that support this show financially. And those people include Matthew Serio from Artigiano Serio, Big Al Schultz of New York Woodworks, Tori Decker from Tori Did It, Ed Swanson of Ed's Clocks and More, Jake Drews of Make with Jake, Meg and Chris from Onyx Designs Woodwork, Christian Neary of Warren Works, Jeff Stein, a.k.a. A Weird Guy, Kim and Garrett from Kim and Garrett Make It, Rory Langefeld of RLO Woodworks and DIY, Robert J. Keller, Rebecca Cole of Beck C Designs, Brian Arsenault, the Seven Hills Maker, Lars Coleman, Colorado Multicraft, Dave Bauer of Dave Bauer Art, who I owe a big thank you to, because without him, there would not have been a show last week. I was incredibly sick last week, could not talk for more than a sentence without coughing my brains out. So Dave Bauer let me use my appearance on Making Problems to Solve as an episode of this show, and I appreciate it tremendously, Dave. So thank you so much for that. Nick Birchtold from Birchtold Design Build, who's building something that's absolutely bonkers. And if you're not following my stories, follow my stories or follow his stories and go watch what he's making. It's crazy. Jeremy Speece, Mike of Pixels to Prototype, Donald LeBlanc of Fun with Woodworking, Grant Alexander from the Clamp Podcast, Brad Harrison of Brad's Customs, and Billy Polton of Polton Projects. Thank you so much to the people that support this show financially. If that's not something you're able to do, that's fine too. Leave a review, share the show, tell someone about it. Any way that you can help spread the word about the show is greatly appreciated. And in fact, we got a new review last week. 5 stars, always a great listen. I wasn't sure the change in topics would be something I would be interested in. However, after listening to a few episodes, I found myself enjoying it as much as Because We Make. Vincent has a way with words that just can't be explained. Thank you for all your hard work to keep it going. I look forward to every Wednesday. That's Greg from Platte Valley Woodworks. Thank you, Greg. I really, really appreciate that. And hey, if you have a moment, jump on over to wherever you're hearing this and leave a review, because every little bit does indeed help, because then it allows me to get cool guests like my buddy Grant. Grant, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, man. It was weird. I just out of the blue, I'm like, hey, you do anything next week? You want to be on Digitally Creative? I was like, yeah, okay, cool. I was like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, man. It's been awesome.
Oh, no problem. Where can people find the stuff you make and find your work? And obviously, don't worry, whatever he says, if you don't catch it right away, it'll be in the show notes. It's always in the show notes. That's the way I do it. But Grant, where can people find you?
That's right. I do have a website, dadcrafted.com. The YouTube channel is, I guess we have handles now. My handle is actually Dadcrafted. On Instagram, for some reason, I'm dad_crafted. But I mean, if you Google any of this, you'll find me. I got the stupid plaid logo, and yeah.
It's very easy and very distinct. And definitely, if you hit up his YouTube channel, throw him a follow. He's definitely worth following. He makes really, really cool stuff, and I've enjoyed your channel so much. I can't wait to see what's coming. I hope this year is a huge year for you. I hope you kill it, and I hope we're all there watching along with you. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you giving me so much of your time this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks, Vincent. It's been fun.
And that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys have a great week. Not sure what next week brings, but I promise you it will bring an episode of the podcast. So I will see you then. Until then, have a great week, everybody.